All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jesse Randall. I'm the founder and CEO of Sweater, which is the host of Founder Saga, where we find ourselves today. Sweater is excited about the future. Our whole objective is to open up the venture capital asset class for the public to be able to participate in the whole venture market, which currently, if you can't cut a half $500,000 check, you really can't play in this world. So we've got a ton of tailwinds behind us right now, some interesting approvals that came from the SEC. All this GameStop stuff that's happening right now is really fantastic and fun for us to pick apart. But overall, we're not here to talk about Sweater. We're here to talk about CrossNet today. So we've got Chris Meade with us. Excited to have you here, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, dude. So I always like to kind of draw back and understand, what the company is like from your perspective. So if you give us give us your quick background, tell us about CrossNet and, anything that you want to share that kind of give us an idea of your scope or impact on the world.
Yeah, no doubt. So we started CrossNet back in 2017. I was working a full-time 9 to 5 at the Uber headquarters in New York City. It was a great job, but honestly, I was 24 and honestly felt burnt out. I was cold calling every day, just trying to make connections. And I was just like, is this all that's my life is going to be? Cold calling and having a salary and being somewhat happy, right? And we had an idea for a 4-way volleyball net. It was my childhood friend and my brother. And one night we thought it up, just thinking of ideas all night long. And 4-way volleyball kind of was just mentioned. Googled it, assumed somebody was already doing it, couldn't find a single thing on the internet. The next day we drove out to Walmart, which was like a half an hour away from our small farm town, rigged up 2 badminton nets on the side of my mom's house, like the garage and the shed, and invited all our friends over. We said, yo, everyone come over, be here at noon, and we're going to play this brand new game we just made up. And it was a blast. We played for hours on end. And from there, we're like, all right, let's go into production. So got some kind of coughed up all the money in our bank accounts in the 401k, which is like $15,000. Got some samples sent over, got 100 units made, moved to Miami. And here we are 3 years later, Forbes 30 under 30, 2,000 plus retail stores, and the fastest growing outdoor game on the planet.
That's awesome, dude. What a story. Yep. I love it. Oh my gosh. So how long did it take you until you decided to ditch Uber and just do this full time? How long did that take?
It was about 6 months. Yeah. So it was I was working at Uber. I was taking cold calls. I was taking calls for CrossNet in the bathroom at Uber. I remember there's a bathroom that was down the hallway. I'd be in there for 30 minutes doing CrossNet work. But eventually it just became there is way too much promise with CrossNet. I could have always gone back to Uber, another good job. I had a good resume, I had a good college background. And I knew this was one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that I knew I would have been really pissed off on if somebody else did it. And I didn't just go for it. So yeah, it took about 6 months. Uber was really cool. I told them, hey, I'm moving to Miami. They said, can you stay on for a few more months and work remote? And so, yeah, I worked remote from my apartment in Miami. We'd be playing CrossNet at lunch breaks. And I got to really focus on CrossNet kind of while I was still hustling on Uber for a few months.
Yeah, that's cool. So let me ask you, a lot of people are scared of building a startup on the side while they're working for somebody else, especially a big player like Uber.
Yeah.
How did you manage that risk, with your NDAs and your non-competes and their intellectual property stuff? What was going through your head? Did you have any advice on that, or did you just kind of go for it?
Yeah, man, I kind of went for it. There's people that are obviously going to be scared for a million different reasons. Fortunately for us, we weren't building a tech. We weren't building an app. We were building a volleyball net, in the side of my mom's house. So it was a little bit different of a compete kind of world. But the hardest part was just managing the time, right? A 9 to 5 is not really a 9 to 5. You have your commute. I was living in the city, so I'd get up, shower. I was just to get to my 9 o'clock job. I was getting up at 7 o'clock or 7:30. Wasn't getting home to 6:30. So trying to find the time and balance to actually grow the company was so difficult, especially in the early days. I'd be waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, responding to CrossNet emails, trying to get to it during lunch break, and then doing it all the way on the train. So the subway was a big thing for me too. But the most important thing, in the early days, was trying to find positive progress every day. So was I getting more emails back? Was our site going from 100 visitors to 200? Was our conversion rate increasing? And once I kind of found that these few just little things that check the boxes, and I knew had I invested 8 hours a day to it rather than 3 hours a day to it, that was when I kind of made the leap of faith to go full time across net.
Yeah, I got you. And that, I mean, that jump is hard, right? I mean, trying to figure out, I mean, it's not just a money equation. I think that that's what a lot of people, equate it to is like, am I
Mhm.
making enough money? But there's so many other elements, right? It's almost because it almost never turns out in a place where where you're making enough money on the side that you can just jump and replace
Never.
your full salary, right?
No, never, never, never. I mean, I literally, I stashed away 3 months of rent, living in Miami and like just food and a little bit of leisure, right? So it was $2,000 a month. So I stashed away like 6 grand. And then we all had this doomsday board. So it was a whiteboard with our names and it had how much money we had in our bank account. And we'd subtract it every single day. And if we got to zero, it was time to get a full-time job. So we all kind of hustled on the side.
I
Like
love it. I love it.
I was building websites on Upwork. I was doing like consulting and like who the hell was I back then? But like I was consulting for Shopify stores. Like how do you build a theme? Like how do you optimize your conversion when my website was barely getting $100 a day? So we
I
found ways
love
to
it.
make it work, and we just got
Okay.
scrappy. We got really
Dude,
scrappy.
I love that. That's so awesome. The doomsday board, man, that makes it real. I love it.
Yep.
Man, I've talked to so many people that, I mean, I felt it myself, right? Where you've got that little thing set aside, right? And you kind of know it's there, but I think a lot of people like don't dare look at it because they don't want to be freaked out,
Oh yeah.
but then you end up putting yourself in a bad position. I love the doomsday board. I think that could almost be like an app, right? It's like
Yeah.
the bootstrap app, right? Throwing how much money you got, like it connects to your bank account.
For real,
All right.
it really good. Yeah.
We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But I love that. I mean, that's like real time pressure and real time accountability for everybody on the team, right? Because everyone else is also accountable to helping to make you successful, and you're accountable to helping make them successful and make it work. I love that. That's awesome.
Exactly.
So, at what point did you stop doing the doomsday board?
Uh, I damn. I feel like we still live on a doomsday board, like in our mind. But no, it was probably after we got like our first couple purchase orders from stores. But once we started being able to take some draws from the company, it took about 18 months till we finally had enough money to pay ourselves out. Because our whole
Mhm.
philosophy, we're self-funded. We're still self-funded to this day. Just got our first line of credit, which is beautiful. Haven't touched it, but probably will be using it soon to fund stuff. But eventually it was, we sold 100, took all the cash, bought 200, sold all 200, bought 500. And we've scaled from 100 units at first PO to now 50,000 at a time. So
Mhm.
we knew if we took money out for us to go have fun and live, then we weren't going to be able to really fund the future of the company.
Mhm. I love the mentality. Like the bootstrapping stories, I think are probably my favorite because you have to get so creative on how to make everything work. I talk a lot about just surviving,
Yep.
right? How are you actually going to survive, like personally, financially, and people, I think inherently that financial survival is the most stressful thing, but it's also the thing that's ignored the most when you get into a business because it's like you
Exactly.
want the business to cash flow and pay you, but it can't. And
No,
it shouldn't, because if you
no.
try to do that, then it'll peter out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough, especially when you have three founders compared to just one. So
Yeah, yeah.
all three of us had our hands out at certain times, being like, "Yo, I need money. I need money."
Mhm.
But it definitely made us smart, and it made us kind of like know what levers to pull and what levers not to pull, and when to spend cash and when not to, which
Mhm.
still benefits us to this day.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So, all right. So let's keep talking about financial survival, like personal survival. So you guys had the doomsday board, which I think
Yep.
is freaking brilliant. I love it. You were taking gigs on the side, right? Which is like
Yep.
helping your doomsday board because you were able to add money to your pot, right?
Yep.
Did you guys
Exactly.
ever share money, by the way? Like when you made money, you're like, this is mine.
No, so our personal money was our personal money. We all did share an apartment, so we kind of just like
That's
went in on
awesome.
the rent. So, but it was, I don't know, what was our rent, like $1,700 in Miami for a 2 bedroom. Like kids were sleeping on the couch and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was fun. Yep.
And then you recycled everything back into the company for 18 months. And so you weren't taking any money out.
Yep.
And then at the beginning, I should have said this towards the beginning. At the beginning, you milked your relationship with Uber for a while,
Yep.
working remotely and trying to get stuff going until you had to finally leave that.
Exactly. Yeah, we had I stashed away 3 months of rent, a living, and then at that point, it was like, all right, here's my 6 grand. Let's make it last for as long as we can.
Yeah, I love it.
Yep.
That is fantastic. Um, okay, so tell me more about like the choice, like the timing to leave Uber, just like that conversation you had, because I mean that's a big egg to leave behind, right? I mean the
Oh yeah.
opportunity to be there, like everything about it. So like when you moved to Miami, you knew in your head that you were going to be leaving eventually. You probably didn't tell Uber though.
No, nope.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Yep.
so at what point did you decide to have that conversation? When was it right? What was the trigger? And how did you manage it with Uber?
Yeah, it was January 1st, 2018, excuse me, that I started full time on CrossNet. I left over the winter break and I just told them that, hey, I'm not going to be coming back after Christmas. And we were just seeing too much positive progress. I remember back in there, this is right, like right before I got my girlfriend, but I remember I was telling her, I was like, hey, if we just sell 10 nets a day, we're going to be like in a really good position. Don't worry. And that was like when we were making less than 500 grand. Right. And, so we just saw positive progress every day where we were seeing 1 sale to 10 sales to 20 sales. And then we saw interest from the retailers. So the retailers were placing purchase orders. And it got to a point where my CrossNet inbox was drowning out my Uber inbox. And at that point, like I just couldn't even focus on Uber. So it was only right to like, let's go for this and let's try it. So yeah, that was January 1st, 2018 that I left full time.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Smooth. So there's so many things I want to dig in with you on this. All right. So you started direct to consumer.
Yep.
So you just threw up a website. Like, did you build it on Shopify? Like
Shopify.
What was the, tell us about the initial product. Like, I mean, you got 2 products, right? So tell us about the sales machine, like that e-commerce side. And then tell us, I want to dig more into the original product too.
Yeah, so we sell CrossNet on Shopify on our Shopify website. We just literally took a Shopify theme out there that was free. We put up a crappy website, it was decent in the beginning, and all our strategy was like we really didn't know what the hell to do, to be honest, besides tell our friends and family, and then you have your friends and family around, and that flops usually, right? Nobody really wants to spend $150 after they promised they would, and then you're like, how do we actually build a business? So what we would do is we would take our cameras, we'd take our iPhones, we would go out to the beach every day and we'd play CrossNet with just our friends. And by the end of the day, there'd be 60 people in line playing. And I'd be recording content on my phone or my camera. I went to film school, so it was like decent, right? And we'd go upload the footage at night and then we'd go run paid ads on the footage. And so every day we'd get more just different types of content. It would be free for us because all we'd be doing is just spending our time. And then the cool thing would be like, you'd be at the beach, right, in South Beach on vacation. You'd either buy the model off of me right there on the spot, or you'd go home and buy one. And then you're back in Boulder playing. And then I'm like, oh, Shopify sales are coming in from Boulder. That must mean that you are out there playing and marketing for me. So now this kind of snowball effects happened where it went from 100 nets out in the world. Now there's 100,000. So as soon as these people go out, they're still having that viral effect that I had at the beach, but they're doing it in their local communities.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's fantastic. How long did it take you to figure out that was happening?
Honestly, like a year. I remember distinctly these.
So it wasn't part of the strategy.
No, it wasn't. Eventually it came to the point where I told the guys, I'm like, yo, we need to spend more time on our laptops growing the business, not at the beach, because our customers are doing the same thing we're doing out in South Beach. We just got to get more nets out into the world. So I remember these girls lived in New York, like Staten Island area, and they loved CrossNet. They played for like the entire day. They took the beach model home. We sold it to them for like $80 or whatever. And they literally played every single day for like 6 months straight. And we just kept getting sales from this one town. And we're like, dude, these girls are incredible. Like, this is all we need. It's just like, we need to get our consumers out there actually playing, and we can have that trickle down effect.
Mm-hmm. So smart. Well, I think that concept is interesting, right? That you don't really know what's going to work, right? Never. Sometimes you're just doing whatever you can, and then you identify patterns. I don't know. I talk to so many founders that just think that there's like a formula. There's like, you look at all these books that are out there, they're very formulaic,
Yeah.
And it's like, you look at like the lean startup. If you follow these 12 steps, you'll find success. And it's like, I've never seen a single company follow the process in lean startup and build a successful business just the way they said, or any other book. I mean, there's dozens
absolutely.
of them, right?
Yeah, especially I talked to somebody like right before this, building a Kickstarter, and he was going to invest a lot of money in just one type of video. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea who's actually going to end up buying your product. For us, I always thought it was myself, right? 28 years old, hitting the beach, having fun. But in reality, I'm selling to parents, because parents are the one that have $150.
Mhm.
My content over time has matured from spiking and action-packed kid focus to here's a video of a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old learning the fundamentals and barely getting it over the net, because that resonates with the mom and dad much more. And had I
Mhm.
known that from the early days, like, hell, my business would have grown that much faster, but it just took a lot of trial and error.
Right. Yeah. So let's go back to the e-commerce platform for a bit. I mean, you kind of shoestringed it out of the gates. How much of your reinvestment went back into enhancing that experience, or did you just kind of let it ride
Yeah, no, we let it
for a while?
ride. I mean, the only updates we would do would be like get a nicer video or new product photography. We didn't invest in a website until last year. Like we didn't pay a design firm to make a website till last year. They did a pretty
Mhm.
good job. But no, everything was in house. My whole point was Shopify cost $29.50 a month, and I was like, there's no reason why I should be spending any more on apps or anything like that. Like keep it as lean as possible. In
Yeah.
the beginning, you think you need all these bells and whistles, but at the end of the day, like people are either gonna buy it or they're not gonna buy it. They're not gonna
Mhm.
buy it because you have this stupid app that flags something, or like it's either that they want the product or they don't want the product, and you wasting money on gimmicks is just gonna burn cash.
Yeah. That's very wise. Um, so let's jump over and talk about the physical product for a minute.
Yep.
So, I mean, you kind of glossed over that part. You just got it sent out, and then
Yeah,
boom, you got 100. You got 100 units. But I mean, there's a lot more to it than that.
of
So,
course.
where did you really start, and like, how did you actually get that design in place, and like finding partners to make it, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So for us, right, it was we made the prototype in our backyard, so we knew what we were looking for. Cut out the middle of a volleyball net, rig another one through, make them stand up. And our
Yeah.
one of our co-founders, he had just graduated from Northeastern with an engineering degree, so he knew
Nice.
CAD. Yeah, that was fortunate, right? A lot of companies they want to invent a product, but they're not product people and they're not designers or engineers. So he was luckily for us, he did all of that in his AutoCAD program, saves us tons of cost, of course, because that was free. And then what we would do is we'd go to Alibaba or AliExpress and we'd simply just type in volleyball manufacturers, send them a message. We'd vet like I don't know how many we vetted, probably 25 to 50. Hey, we're three kids from a farm town. We have this cool idea. Can you make this? And then of course the answer is yes, we could try. And then the answer back is, oh, you also we have a $100,000 minimum order. So that doesn't work for us. So we were able to
Right.
find we were able to find one or two. Yeah, I forget. We found one person that we really liked, had a good rapport with, spoke English well, and she was willing to take a chance on us for 100 units. Sent her over the money, got some samples. The 100 landed, and we still work with her to this day.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Oh man, one of the advantages in your business compared to most ecom businesses is you've only got a handful of SKUs and they never change, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good to like the one product's nice. It keeps us focused. It keeps us grounded. It lets us not spend money in a million different directions to cover marketing for a million products. It's like, this is our one flagship product. There's additional upsells, but you need to have this one product. So it
Mhm.
definitely helps us stay focused.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's so funny, like thinking about, the immense success that you guys have had as a single product company,
Mhm.
and how much that flies in the face of what like a VC would tell you. Because they'd say, "Oh, well, we don't invest in single product companies. We need product lines and entire." I mean, did you guys ever try to have those conversations? Did anyone ever approach you or say, or try
Uh,
to convince you to do something different?
it's funny how things have kind of changed. Like back in the early days, not a single person would want to talk to us. We are literally just kids from a farm town. Like we had no connections. Our literally what like the only person to go to college from our town. Like we didn't really know anybody. We didn't have those connections, and we're building them as time goes on. But now it's daily. Oh, hey, can I buy 10%, 20% of your company? I'm like, maybe 3 years ago, but right now we're profitable and rolling and doing pretty well. So no, we didn't talk to VCs early on. We knew it was really important to keep the equity within the company between the three founders. And if we needed cash, we could go to a bank, which is kind of what we've done.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Um, I think it's always insightful to kind of see what the pushback is from traditional investing mentality,
Yeah.
and break the mold, and say you don't have to do it like that. And I don't know, like the VC world is so front and center with how, the how you're supposed to go about building a company.
Of
But I
course.
think we forget that it's not the only way to do it. There's so many other ways to build a company, and you guys are a great example of that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely think, especially in our world, it's glorified to a point. Like, obviously, there's VCs are super important. Like, some companies truly do need an investment, but the gold standard in my eyes should be profitability. And are you making a living, and are you being able to pay your employees through your business's cash, not through somebody's handout, in my opinion. And I think the whole entire thing of raising $10 million when your company's $10 million in debt, it's kind of an interesting concept in today's world, especially
Mm-hmm.
for like products that don't require that much debt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and frankly, I mean, like, looking at what you guys are selling, right? It could have ruined the equation to have found success in the first place, right? Because success is relative. I mean, I like your definition of success, which is, being profitable and being able to support your employee base and actually make a machine that's working, right? And VC money or angel money can just be a kickstart to that, but can also put you in a bad spot, right? Because it creates a hurdle you have to get over in order for the investor to be made whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
especially early on, you don't even know what the hell you're spending your money on the right way. Like, you make a lot of poor decisions early on. So I think we're much better suited for an investment at this stage than we were 3 years ago.
Yeah, totally. So having 3 founders, how was that? Did you run into, I don't know if you're willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
A lot of founders have, like, especially in the early days, there's some conflict. You guys, sounds like you all knew each other for quite a while before you came in on this together.
Yeah. Well, Greg's my brother, so that helps. So yeah, but it is an interesting conflict, interesting dynamic. I mean, there's times where like me and Greg will side against Mike, or Mike and Greg will side against me, because having 3, somebody's always outnumbered if they do feel like they're in the wrong or the right. So I think it's good that Greg is the CEO of the company, is kind of the median between the 3 of us, which is great. And it also really helps. Like, you hear a lot of founder stories where the founders have like the same skill set, and that's where a lot of conflict comes in between the 3 of us. Like, our skill sets are so cut and dry. Like, what one person does, like Mike's the engineer guy, he does the blueprints, he does the CAD, he invents the product. I am so far from that person. Like, I could just tell him, yo, that looks great, but who am I to like go into AutoCAD and start moving stuff around? So like, I'm the sales and marketing guy, so that's very, very clear. So all of our roles are like really, really defined, so we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So if you guys ever had a point where, I don't think I want to ask that question in that way,
I'm an open book. So I'm an open book. That's it.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us about like one of these points of conflict, right? Like maybe where you felt like you were getting, kind of stubbed out by the other 2. How do you handle that personally? Because I mean, like, founder dynamics are difficult sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because we all see the world from a different point of view. So how do you deal with it when you're the one that's being kind of, cut out of the conversation?
Yeah, I think one situation that comes to mind was I was the first one to leave my full-time job. So I was working on the company 40, 60 hours a week, while the others were still working at their full-time jobs. So from my perspective, as you could see, the first few weeks are awesome, but then you could start to feel a little bit jaded, where you're working for a full year while they're at their full-time jobs. And none of us are getting paid, but I'm doing 40 hours of work, So it's definitely a tough pill to swallow. I'm sure almost every founder who's working with a partner will find themselves in this type of situation at some point or another. But it's really just like keeping your eye on the prize, knowing that everything will even out eventually, which it has, fortunately for us. But yeah, in those moments, it was definitely tense. There's definitely moments where I'm like, yo, why am I not getting more money? Like, I was doing more work. So it is tough at times. There's going to be friction. There's no possible way that there won't be friction. If people tell you that they never fought, like, that's such BS. It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's more about what you do about it, right?
Exactly.
And how you choose to handle it. Yeah. It's in many ways, it's like getting married, right? If you're in it for the long haul, you just have a different mentality. You're not going to walk out the door, but you got to figure out how to manage it, right?
Yep.
That's great. Okay, so your sales and marketing. So the early stuff was important. I mean, you went through kind of how you figured out some of those equations. Let's talk about retail for a minute. So breaking into retail, I mean, that's like its own little monster. So tell us about the evolution of how you first got that opportunity and how you evolved it into 2,000 retail locations, because that's no small thing.
No, it's not easy, man. So the first thing I did was, so I was charging my computer. The first thing I did was I literally added every single buyer I could ever think of on LinkedIn. I built up this platform. In the beginning, when we started off, I'm still nobody, right? But like I didn't have a network. I didn't have people following me. I didn't have people reaching out to do podcast every second. So I added every buyer and every marketer within the companies that I dreamed of CrossNet being in. And you probably know just as well as me, nothing is worse than getting somebody added on LinkedIn and then they message you 10 seconds later asking to talk or asking to buy your service or whatever they're trying to sell. So I didn't do that. I wasn't that idiot. But what I did do was I posted about CrossNet daily, which I still do to this day. And I think I do a decent job of not doing it in a spammy, salesy way, but more of like, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm proud of. If you don't like it, unfollow me. But most of the time it's engaging. And most of the time it helps people who want to be in my shoes or are working towards being in my shoes.
Yeah, you do a good job, just
Thanks.
for the record.
I appreciate it. So long way of saying was built them into this funnel as a marketer. And then eventually when the time was right, maybe it was after they liked my photo, or maybe it was after they liked my post, or maybe hell, they even left a comment once. And then it's like, yo, just saw your comment. Thank you so much. By the way, I'd love to be in Shields, which is a store you probably know out in the kind of the Midwest West. And so I messaged the buyer at Shields. I said, please, like, I promise it's going to sell. It's so much better than what you currently have. And he took us on for 2 stores, 16 units. This was back in 2018, the tail end of 2018. So 16 units, $3,000 order for us back then was like, Jesus, we're rich, right? And the inventory, the product did not move, did not leave the store. I thought I screwed up the relationship. I thought we went into retail too early. I thought like we were never getting another chance. Fortunately, CrossNet's momentum kept building. And then 6 months later, he sends me an email. And I was too nervous to email him being like, yo, did they move? Did they not? Like, I would have heard if they moved, right? So
right.
Sends me an email. Yo, I don't know what happened, but all 16 sold out overnight. Can we get some more? And I was like, of course you could get some more. So
he, you know what happened? I mean, that's really specific.
So
right?
We had a video go viral on Facebook. We woke up and like 5 million views on this video, like hundreds of thousands of shares. It was Olympians playing CrossNet. Like they made this sick rally. And so I wrote back. I said, of course. He's like, how about nationwide? I'm like, yeah, nationwide sounds pretty good to me, dude. So he sent over this massive purchase order, which was like the biggest one. And in hindsight, I know with wholesale, it's really important to find stores that are going to be good partners. With Shields, can't speak higher of them, but they pay their bills and they pay them on time and they pay them quick. So their net time is 15 days, sometimes 30 days. So you're not waiting 120 days or 90 days for a retailer to pay you. Mm-hmm. And in the early stages, that cripples your business. So with us, the cash flow is there. Had I gone with a Dick's or a Walmart off the jump, I would have sold 70% of my company to make the inventory, But with Shields, I had the cash flow.
That's such a big difference. That's awesome. And what a good reputation for Shields to have, I mean, that's just a draw to bring in cool new product and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So shout out to Shields, very good partners, but it allowed us to build the cash flow and be a good test. Because had I gone to Walmart off the jump and the units didn't move, that buyer's never emailing me back ever again. So you got to start small and scale. And it sucks because everyone wants to be in the Walmart and Target right off the jump. But if you don't have the brand, your company's life in those stores is pretty much dead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes a big difference. So did you ever like try to get into like smaller stores and stuff, or you just focused on the big box guys and you happened to get into Shields?
Yeah, well, we have like a little wholesale portal on our website. I'd say we get a few emails daily of like, hey, I'm a mom and pop surf shop in New Jersey. Like, can I get 4 units? So we still definitely focus on those guys, but it's less of like, we don't have a sales team, right? We have 1 salesperson now that we just hired 3 months ago. I was the sales team for 3 years. And it was like, let's get these big key accounts that send over large purchase orders the little mom and pop shops will soon to follow. But if we're chasing down commission model and all of that, like it was just too much headache for the revenue that it brought in. So we never went down that route. I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of mom and pop shops we should be in and could be in. But that's more just kind of money down the road that we could chase after.
Yeah, I got you. So would you say that video was really what made retail work for you? I mean, it sounds like that might've been a pivotal moment in the whole business.
It absolutely was, because that was the moment where it was no longer Chris, Greg, and Mike trying to play volleyball, because we're not volleyball players, and Olympians playing CrossNet and making it look sexy. So yeah, that was a key turning point for our business. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Do you think, like in hindsight, do you think you could have manufactured that moment with those Olympians, or did it have to be organic the way it happened?
Distribution's tough, man, because we've had videos that are better than that, but we haven't. I mean, we had like a Fox Sports airing a few days ago or a week ago, whatever it was, and that was organic completely. But those magic moments that just happen, that only a few select founders will ever like experience in their life, where they wake up and a video's hit 6 million, 10 million views. You can't really predict that stuff. As much as you want to think you're predicting it and you have the secret sauce, they really don't happen frequently. So we definitely shot better videos. We've definitely put more dollars behind videos, but having it just happen naturally and organically for free, I don't think I could have. I could still replicate that. I can't. Otherwise, I'd be doing it daily, right?
That's the truth, right?
Yeah,
man. It seems like, a good portion of the startup equation is just being prepared for the opportunity when it hits, and there's nothing else you can do except be passionate about what you're doing and just make sure you can survive to find it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And many never do, which, that's also just the risk we take, but that's the truth. So there had to have been a point in this where maybe you felt some concern about your decision to pursue this. Did you ever have a moment where you were like, is this thing going to work? Did I make the right choice?
Not that one really stands out, really. Like, it took 6 months or whatever it was until I left Uber. And I really feel confident. Like, I'm good at talking to people. I went to college. I have a pretty decent resume. Like, I always knew I could go get that corporate job that I was making $100,000 at. And I knew it'd take 3 months. Maybe it took 6 months, but I was going to be okay. There were times where I'm frustrated where, hey, we didn't get a payout this month. Can we please get a payout next month? And then next month comes, you don't get a payout, and you're like, what the hell? But in hindsight, we made it work. And to your point that you just made, you need to be prepared to take advantage of the stuff that happens to you. And had I had the $2,000 in my bank account instead of $2,000 in inventory, we wouldn't have been able to fulfill those orders that kept the company alive. So everything happens for a reason. You got to learn to not be greedy and want the cash and the payday early on. And it's easier said than done. It's really, really tough. Fortunately, I had 2 other people in my corner kind of being hardos about not getting paid as well, and it all worked out.
Well, amazing what that can drive you to do too.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want to give you the last 5 minutes and just, take a mic, talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs out there who want to build something. A lot of the people that watch this and engage, right? They're often the ones that are on the fence, that have that thing that's in their mind, and they're deciding whether or not they want to go after it. They hear stories like yours, they see your success, and they get excited, right?
Yep.
But they still got to make that choice. What would you tell them if you had the chance to sit down and tell them what you really thought?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I always come back to is like, why not you? Every single person. I mean, hell, even like Jeff Bezos, right? Like, he was probably just a normal dude at one point. I mean, he still probably thinks of himself as a normal dude. Like, anybody can accomplish anything if you like really put your mind to it and you're smart about it. There's obviously delusions of grandeur when things are just not physically possible, but like, if you have a good idea, go for it. If not, somebody else is going to go for it and do it. Can't speak for everybody, but there's a lot of times where you could always get that day job again. It might take you some time, but living with regret, I can imagine, is a really shitty thing. So just go for it, especially if you're younger on in your career and you don't have kids and a family. I know if I was 35 when I started CrossNet, it would have been way harder to have a wife and children to support and a family than when I was younger, to actually go for my dreams and actually chase it. So very lucky I did it. You don't need to know people. You don't need to have a ton of money. You just need to try and keep going every day and like follow something that you're passionate about.
Love it, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, I can attest to the wife and kids thing.
Yeah.
It makes for a very different equation. Been doing it for years, and it's satisfying, on one hand, to know that you can figure out how to survive on your own, but it's also way more pressure, from a certain perspective, in that you have dependence. So I totally get it, and that's true advice. Anyone that's young, I think the best education you can get is building a business. There's no class you can take at university to teach you what it takes to get this thing off the ground.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining today. I'm excited about sharing. You had some great snippets in here that I'm excited to share out to the world. So thanks everyone that joined us today, and we'll get this thing distributed out to the whole community here. And you're the man, Chris. Congrats on all your success, and to your continued success. Cool. And I'm going to go buy me one of these I've got a huge family. So cool. I'm definitely going to get a unit, and I'm taking it to the next reunion.
Perfect. Love it. Well, thank you so much, man. Right. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll see you.